Authorities in Pasco County, Florida say they were involved in an unusual pursuit this week after a motorcyclist led them on a dangerous late-night chase across county lines while wearing a fuzzy bunny helmet complete with a large pair of ears. According to the Florida Highway Patrol, the incident began shortly after 11 p.m. on Sunday, May 3rd along U.S. Highway 19 in Pasco County. Troopers say they spotted a motorcycle ripping down the road at a high rate of speed while weaving between vehicles. Investigators also noticed that the bike's license plate had been flipped upward, making it unreadable to law enforcement and traffic cameras. When a trooper attempted to initiate a traffic stop, authorities say the rider refused to pull over and instead accelerated, triggering a high-speed pursuit. That rider was later identified as 29-year-old Dalton Hubbard. According to investigators, Hubbard allegedly tore through traffic at speeds reaching 120 miles per hour while running multiple red lights and dangerously maneuvering around other vehicles. Authorities say the pursuit continued northbound along US 19 and quickly crossed into neighboring Hernando County. Troopers described the chase as extremely dangerous due to the speed, nighttime conditions, and the amount of traffic on the roadway. Photos later released by authorities showed Hubbard riding while wearing a distinctive fuzzy white helmet decorated with long bunny ears, making the pursuit especially eye-catching. Investigators say the chase finally came to an end shortly before 11:30 p.m. near Commercial Way in the North Weeki-Wachee area. According to troopers, Hubbard eventually slowed down, pulled over, and surrendered without further incident. During a search following the arrest, authorities say Hubbard was found carrying a handgun. As a result, investigators added an additional weapons-related offense connected to the pursuit. Hubbard now faces multiple charges, including felony fleeing and eluding law enforcement, reckless driving, driving more than 50 miles per hour over the speed limit, and use or display of a weapon during the commission of a felony.
Authorities in White County, Arkansas say a local family was treated to quite the unsettling surprise last week when they discovered a man secretly living in their home after days of unusual events and activity. According to investigators, the incident unfolded in Searcy, a city about 50 miles northeast of Little Rock. The home in question belongs to a local couple named Dutch and Sharon Hogat.
A Searcy family with a bizarre experience this week involving an uninvited house guest. We thank you for trusting THV 11 News at 5 on this Friday. I am Rolly Hoyt.
And I'm Brooke Buckner. Tonight, THV 11's Carter Thweet shows us how some unsettling clues led to a disturbing discovery.
Harding University professor Dutch Hogat thought something was off.
We noticed that chairs had been moved around in the house. We noticed that some of our food was missing.
He and his wife shared their concerns with their daughter Charisse and son-in-law Mark.
I think they thought they were both going crazy, and I'm like, that doesn't happen at the same time suddenly.
While Dutch was at church, Charisse, Mark, and Dutch's wife Sharon started searching the house. Sharon went in first.
She went further into the closet, and that's when I saw her eyes get really big, and she starts to back out, and she says, "There's someone in there. I see their leg or their jeans or something."
It was an intruder, a man who said he was homeless, who left the house and was promptly arrested.
I could tell he wasn't really a threat, but I had him step outside, and then I sat him down and I just talked to him for a little while till the police came.
The man's story was a wild one. He said he first entered through the home's crawl space.
And he was here for how long, do y'all think?
Well, probably one night.
Before making his way into the basement sometime Tuesday morning and staying through Wednesday evening, forming a makeshift bed deep in a storage closet underneath the stairs. The family says they feel more empathy than anger.
We're not angry at this man. I feel sorry for the man. I'm glad we figured out there was somebody living in the house, because this could have gone on for much longer than it did.
I don't think he was trying to be a bad guy. There's plenty of opportunities where he could have, taken things. It seemed like he was just trying to get out of the elements, trying to survive.
In Searcy, Carter Thweet, THV 11 News.
Remarkable. Carter, thank you. White County Sheriff's deputies took the intruder into custody. He's identified as 41-year-old Preston Landis. He's been charged with theft of property, residential burglary for the food, clothes, and other items that he did take while in the home.
Residents in a California neighborhood say they were left terrified last week after a knife-wielding man was caught on doorbell cameras aggressively approaching homes, only to be released from jail about 90 minutes after his first arrest. According to the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office, the incidents began on the evening of Thursday, April 30th in the Arden Arcade area near La Sierra Drive. Residents reported a man wandering through the neighborhood carrying a knife, banging on doors, and behaving erratically. That man was later identified as 56-year-old Brian Matson. One of the most alarming encounters was captured on a Ring doorbell camera outside the home of a woman named Rebecca Breen. The footage reportedly showed Matson standing on the family's porch holding a knife while making repeated stabbing motions toward the door. Breen later told reporters that she and her family were inside when they heard the loud knocking. When they checked the camera feed, they realized something was seriously wrong. According to investigators, deputies began receiving multiple calls from residents reporting similar encounters involving a man armed with a knife approaching homes throughout the neighborhood. Fortunately, authorities say no one was physically injured because residents locked their doors, stayed inside, and immediately called 911. But by the time deputies arrived in the area, Matson had already fled. Investigators later tracked him down and arrested him on Saturday, May 2nd. However, despite the disturbing nature of the incidents, authorities say the only immediate criminal charge available at the time was misdemeanor trespassing. Because Matson was already on felony probation, deputies requested a probation violation hold in hopes of keeping him in custody longer. However, that request was apparently denied by the Sacramento County Probation Department. As a result, Matson was released from custody after only 90 minutes in jail. The quick release sparked outrage and fear among residents already shaken by the incidents, especially when, just hours after being released, deputies were called again, this time to a business near Fair Oaks Boulevard and San Lucas Way for another trespassing complaint involving Matson. Authorities say responding officers found him at the scene and arrested him without incident. This time, officials approved a probation violation hold, allowing deputies to keep him in custody. Matson was then booked into the Sacramento County Main Jail, where he remained held without bail. The sheriff's office later publicly released his booking photo and urged anyone who may have encountered him or experienced similar incidents to contact investigators. Authorities say additional victim reports could potentially lead to more charges. As for Rebecca Breen, she says she did not believe her family was specifically targeted, but said the randomness of the incident made it even more unsettling. In that same interview, she told reporters, quote, "If it wasn't us, it's going to be someone else. Clearly, he was not in his right frame of mind at all." At the time of this recording, the investigation remains ongoing.
Authorities in Texas say a shocking crime has devastated countless people, including members of Houston's food scene, after a well-known restaurant owner allegedly shot and killed his wife and their 2 young children before turning the weapon on himself. The victims have been identified as 39-year-old T. Mitchell and her children, 8-year-old Maya and 4-year-old Max. The alleged gunman was T's husband and the father of the 2 kids, 52-year-old Matthew Mitchell. The family owned the popular Houston restaurants Traveler's Table and Traveler's Cart, businesses that had gained national attention after being featured on Guy Fieri's Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. According to the Houston Police Department, officers were called to the family's home in the city's River Oaks area on Monday, May 4th, after a babysitter and concerned relatives requested a welfare check. Authorities say family members had not heard from the Mitchells since the previous evening and became increasingly alarmed when repeated calls and messages went unanswered. When officers arrived at approximately 5:30 p.m., they made a horrifying discovery inside the home. Police found all 4 family members dead from gunshot wounds. Investigators later determined that Matthew shot T, Maya, and Max before fatally shooting himself as well. No motive has been officially released. The tragedy has stunned both the Houston restaurant industry and people who followed the couple online, where they often shared photos and videos portraying a close-knit family life centered around food, travel, and their children. Friends and colleagues described T as deeply passionate, adventurous, and devoted to both her family and her restaurants. Born to Vietnamese immigrant parents in Houston, T grew up working in her family's restaurants before eventually building her own successful hospitality career alongside Matthew. Matthew, meanwhile, had previously worked as a journalist and in the pharmaceutical industry before entering the restaurant world. The couple reportedly bonded over their shared love of travel and international cuisine, eventually creating Traveler's Table, a restaurant concept inspired by dishes from around the world. In the days after the killings, many online users focused on a now haunting Instagram reel T posted just days before her death. The video showed T smiling beside Matthew while text over the clip joked about the couple growing old together. It read, quote, "He thinks we will grow old together," before cutting to T and adding, "He will, but I'm Asian." At the time, the post appeared to simply be a lighthearted joke, but after the deaths, commenters understandably felt that it had taken on an entirely new and haunting context. Just one day before the killings, T had posted another video showing herself and Maya getting measured for dresses ahead of her sister's wedding. The family had also recently appeared together publicly discussing the challenges of balancing restaurant ownership with raising young children. In interviews and podcasts, T spoke candidly about the stress of operating multiple restaurants and the pressure that came with maintaining a successful business while also being a mother. Community members and neighbors expressed shock after learning what had happened. One nearby resident told reporters that the family had not lived in the neighborhood very long, but often appeared happy and active together. Another unconfirmed report from a neighbor suggested T may have been pregnant at the time of her death, though police have not verified that information publicly. The hospitality group connected to the couple's restaurants later released an emotional statement mourning T, describing her as, quote, a devoted mother and businesswoman, and saying the entire team was devastated by the loss. At the time of this recording, investigators have not publicly disclosed any additional details about what may have led up to the killings.
Authorities in Dallas County, Texas say a would-be carjacker is dead this week after he was shot and killed during the middle of a terrifying struggle when he allegedly attempted to steal a vehicle in broad daylight with multiple members of a family still inside, including children. The incident unfolded on the afternoon of Sunday, May 3rd in the city of Garland. According to the Garland Police Department, the chaos began around 3:30 p.m. when a driver crashed into two vehicles along Highway 66. Investigators say the driver, later identified as 30-year-old Jose Ramirez, then abandoned his vehicle and fled on foot toward a nearby gas station and shopping center. While officers were responding to the crash, police say Ramirez began attempting to force his way into several vehicles in the area. Witnesses described him as behaving erratically and appearing extremely agitated. A nearby business manager later told reporters the 30-year-old seemed, quote, not in his right state of mind, as he moved through the parking lot trying to enter different cars. Surveillance footage obtained by local media reportedly shows Ramirez eventually approaching a white Chevy Impala parked at the shopping center. Inside the vehicle at the time was a family of 8, including several young children, 2 adult women, and a male driver, who was reportedly the father of the children. According to police, Ramirez walked directly up to the driver's side door, prompting the father to immediately jump out of the car to confront him. Investigators say Ramirez tried to physically pull the father away from the vehicle as the rest of the family scrambled to escape. During the struggle, a young boy and the remaining occupants desperately tried to flee from the car and run to safety. Authorities say the father then drew a firearm and fired more than 10 rounds at Ramirez. The 30-year-old collapsed in the parking lot and was later transported to a hospital where he died from his injuries. Remarkably, none of the family members, including the children, were physically injured during the ordeal. After the shooting, the father stayed at the scene, cooperated with investigators, and turned over his firearm to officers. Garland police say they do not currently expect criminal charges to be filed against him and are considering the incident to be a case of self-defense. Police are also continuing to investigate anything else that may have happened in the lead-up to the attempted carjacking. So far, the only other information that has been released, though, is that Jose Ramirez was reportedly in the U.S. illegally at the time of the incident. The crime has sparked strong reactions in the community, with many residents expressing sympathy for the family and relief that the children escaped unharmed. At the time of this recording, the investigation remains ongoing.
Authorities in Washington state say a U.S. Army veteran is facing multiple charges this week following an unhinged caught-on-camera incident in which she allegedly chased a child down a sidewalk with her car while drunk before also breaking into a nearby home. According to investigators, the incident unfolded on April 28th in Cheney, a small city southwest of Spokane. The suspect in question has been identified as 56-year-old Wendy Clemente, a U.S. Army veteran. Disturbing cell phone video recorded by a nearby resident captured part of the confrontation and quickly spread online after being released by the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. The footage allegedly shows Clemente driving a silver Ford Focus towards a child riding what appeared to be either a dirt bike or e-bike through a suburban neighborhood. Witnesses say Clemente repeatedly honked her horn while swerving aggressively towards the boy. At one point, the video shows the vehicle mounting the sidewalk and accelerating directly at the child as he attempts to ride away. The driver narrowly missed bushes and a fire hydrant during the pursuit. A neighbor filming the incident can be heard yelling out in shock and disbelief during the ordeal as the car continues chasing the child along the sidewalk. Fortunately, the boy was not physically harmed. However, authorities say the bizarre chain of events did not end there. Deputies had initially been dispatched to the area after receiving reports of a possible burglary roughly a mile away from the confrontation. According to investigators, a homeowner remotely monitoring live security camera footage reported seeing someone trying to open doors at their property. When deputies arrived, they found Clemente and her silver Ford Focus at the home. Police say Clemente allegedly broke into the residence after the confrontation involving the child. Homeowner Lloyd Gaines later told reporters that he received Ring camera alerts showing a visibly intoxicated woman pounding on his front door. According to Gaines, Clemente allegedly fell off the porch and face-planted while trying to enter the home because she was so drunk. Investigators say she eventually made her way inside and allegedly rummaged through belongings, tossing items around and going through jewelry before deputies arrived. Gaines, who returned home during the incident, described Clemente as stumbling around the property and, quote, bouncing off trees. He said she appeared extremely intoxicated and disoriented. According to court documents, Clemente later made bizarre comments about flags outside the home, asking Gaines where his Trump flag was. When deputies took her into custody, investigators say Clemente attempted to kick one of the responding officers. Authorities say she later admitted to consuming alcohol and acknowledged she had likely drank, quote, more alcohol than she probably should have. However, police say she denied remembering the incident involving the child on the bike. According to investigators, Clemente attempted to explain her behavior by saying she had taken her dogs out for a ride and was looking for other dogs for them to play with. Court documents also state Clemente claimed she had been under stress due to being the sole financial provider for her family and was receiving mental health treatment. Authorities suspected she was under the influence of both alcohol and drugs at the time of the incidents. Clemente was arrested and booked into the Spokane County Jail on charges including first-degree attempted assault, DUI, and criminal trespass. At the time of this recording, the investigation remains ongoing.
A missing North Carolina teenager and a 28-year-old man have been arrested in connection with a horrifying crime this week after they were tracked to a Tennessee motel room following the brutal murders of the teen girl's parents and grandmother. The victims were identified as 41-year-old Travis Eugene Grant, 42-year-old Kimberly Michelle Grant, and 66-year-old Sharon Harwood Grant. Investigators say Travis and Kimberly were married while Sharon was Travis's mother. According to the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office, deputies were asked to conduct a welfare check at the family's home on Ashworth Drive in Fairview at around 7:15 p.m. on Thursday, May 7th, after relatives became concerned because they had not heard from the family. Authorities say deputies entered the residence and discovered all three victims dead inside the home from apparent gunshot wounds. The case was immediately classified as a homicide investigation. During that investigation, detectives determined that a 16-year-old girl who lived at the home, later identified as Star Grant, was missing and unaccounted for. Investigators soon began looking into whether she may have left the area with 28-year-old Devin O'Neill Loving. Law enforcement were able to trace a vehicle associated with the missing teenager to a Motel 6 on Ownby Street in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, at around 4 a.m. Friday morning. Several hours later, at approximately 8:30 a.m., officers with the local police department, assisted by agents from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, entered the hotel room. Authorities say Grant and Loving were taken into custody without incident and brought to the Gatlinburg Police Department for questioning. Investigators later announced that both suspects had been charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder. Officials also confirmed that despite being 16 years old, Star Grant will be charged as an adult. Both suspects are expected to face extradition proceedings in Tennessee before being returned to Buncombe County, North Carolina. Authorities say investigators are still working to determine exactly how long the pair had been staying in Tennessee prior to their arrest. Officials have not publicly disclosed a possible motive for the killings. Investigators additionally revealed that deputies had reportedly conducted earlier welfare checks at the home in the days before the bodies were discovered, but at that time did not have legal grounds to enter the residence. At the time of this recording, the investigation remains ongoing.
The Central Florida community has been left reeling and demanding answers this week after a devastating shooting spree spanning 2 crime scenes left 4 members of the same family dead, including a 4-month-old baby and a 4-year-old child. The violence unfolded during the early morning hours of Sunday, May 3rd in Plant City, a community east of Tampa. According to the local police department, officers were first called to the 300 block of West Tever Street after reports of a disturbance. When officers arrived, they discovered an extremely traumatic scene. Authorities say a 4-month-old infant and a 4-year-old child had both been shot and were pronounced dead at the scene. Their 28-year-old mother was also found suffering from gunshot wounds. She was rushed to a hospital for emergency treatment, but sadly, she later died from her injuries as well. Investigators located a third child at the home, though miraculously, she was physically unharmed. As detectives began piecing together the circumstances of the attack, they uncovered evidence pointing to a second nearby crime scene less than a mile away. Police then responded to the 900 block of North Burton Street, where they discovered the body of a 55-year-old woman, the mother of the 28-year-old victim, and the grandmother of the two slain children. Authorities say she had also been fatally shot. Right now, even more than a week later, authorities have not officially released the names of the victims. However, local media have identified the two adult women as Haley Dempsey and her mother, Valerie DeBow. Investigators now believe the violence unfolded across both locations during a relatively short period of time in the early morning hours. Police have not publicly confirmed the exact sequence of events, but investigators say they believe at least one of the women may have traveled on foot between the two locations while accompanied by the children. As part of the investigation, authorities are specifically asking residents and businesses to review surveillance footage recorded between 5:30 and 7 a.m. on May 3rd, especially any footage showing a woman walking with 3 young children near North Burton Street or West Tever Street. The case has shaken the local community, with neighbors describing frightening and suspicious activity in the days leading up to the killings. One nearby resident told local media that police had previously been called to a domestic-related dispute at one of the homes just days earlier, allegedly involving Haley and her partner, Jay Dempsey Jr. That dispute reportedly involved Jay being caught watching adult content inside the house and for being unfaithful to Haley. A neighbor also claimed that on the night before the shootings, he saw a man loading a large duffel bag into a vehicle while wearing what appeared to be a bulletproof vest. Authorities have not confirmed whether that reported incident is directly connected to the killings. In fact, they haven't confirmed much of anything, something that has led to increasing criticism and calls for action from members of the local community. As previously mentioned, the Plant City Police Department still has not even publicly confirmed the identities of the victims, let alone provided any details about a suspect or a motive behind the awful crime. On Mother's Day, community members gathered at a local park to honor the lives of Haley, Valerie, and the 2 young girls. And several were not shy about sharing their frustrations with police. One woman, who identified herself as a previous victim of domestic violence, told reporters, quote, "What's most frustrating is that it's been a week and there's still no named person of interest, and I feel like the police department and the city is sort of tiptoeing around the obvious, and they did the exact same thing with my case." She went on to specifically call out the lack of information provided about the victims, stating, quote, "If we don't say their names, then they just become something that never existed." At the time of this recording, authorities say the investigation is active and ongoing, though no arrests have been announced. Authorities are urging anyone with information, surveillance footage, or who may have seen anything in the area that morning to contact the Plant City Police Department immediately.